Good morning. Your heads exploded from impressions from yesterday. I'm just wondering how many startups are here today? How many investors? How many board members? And how many who are bored of corporate jobs? Okay. Anyone else that I didn't recall? But I'm actually going to talk to you all today. I'm a non-engineer working at DTU, and I can encourage you that if you are a non-engineer, go towards the technical universities, because they actually need everything you have. Even the most trivial thing that you are good at, when you are a non-engineer, the engineers need that. So, what I'm going to talk about is actually how that you bring co-founders into your startup today, and maybe also broaden that view on what a co-founder is. So, but just first and foremost, maybe also sounds a bit romantic what I'm talking about here. The key factors that when you have to choose a co-founder is actually that you are aligned on the vision. Don't compromise on that. And spend time on discussing this. How do you envision the future? What you're there for? Because on a rainy day, that is actually what is the glue that sticks you together. And it's okay to disagree on it, but then be pretty frank on how come it's okay. Usually the best team perform when they're totally aligned on the vision. And then, of course, also to clarify who has the skills and what is your role. Often we see that there's too many CEOs in the startups or potential CEOs. For instance, 3 engineers have started a startup. Everyone wants to become a CEO. That is a problem. So try to stick to your roles. And for you that is actually sitting in that situation where you actually want to be a CEO and is not, don't go there. You get beaten up all the time. So if you are not there yet, just wait and look and learn all the tips and tricks and focus on what you're very good at if you're an engineer. Yeah. And then, of course, there's also something about what drives you and how much time do you dedicate to the job. If you are unaligned on this, I can assure you, I quit or closed the startup based on we were not aligned on this. And in the start, when we were discussing this, we were just, turning around it and not talking about it. We're a bit ambiguous about being pretty frank to each other about actually having the time and the dedication for a startup, and that kills it. So, I've said a bit about it until now. Something about how you prefer to work. It's really a problem if someone likes to work from home and the rest of the team wants to have a family feeling. So that is also very important. And actually, don't be soft on this. So when you are looking for co-founders, when you're looking for team members, be aware of what you won't negotiate on. And just being together when you have a tough time helps a lot. Within organization theory, we talk about that the more distance you have between you, the more difficult it is actually to collaborate. And then you'll say, okay, we're a virtual organization, but that is something completely different because then you're all far away from each other, and then you have the same kind of nearness. And then also be pretty aware of how you take decisions. Sometimes some startup CEOs actually take too many decisions themselves. That could ruin, of course, the company, but it's also a lonely place to be. So please discuss the important decisions together. And for the CEOs of the companies, please don't encapsulate that all alone. And then, if you have a team where two like to have very much work-life balance and the others are working 80 hours a week. That could also be quite difficult to handle unless you are very clear on how come you work very differently or if it's reflected in the shareholders agreement. Yeah. Being strong in collaboration doesn't mean that you agree all the time on everything. What is important is that you actually are pretty respectful to each other on how you prefer to communicate. And and it may seem banal, but it's so difficult. If you are misaligned on the communication, please talk about it. The sooner the better, because some small things can pile up in the little black book and then suddenly a co-founder explodes or just goes away from the startup. And maybe that is actually the most important thing that you're losing there. It's all based on trust. You know that. You really know it when you trust each other. Then you're not afraid of if anyone is in your back the next day without you seeing it. So, and if you have trust issues, talk about it. That is the uttermost important thing that you have to be aware of. And also be adaptable about how much you want to communicate. I know I'm an extrovert, so I communicate a lot about what I think, what I feel. And I also have team members that are not like that. So I know I have to restrict myself sometimes and be ready for when he comes and wants to talk to me, for instance. And if I get too impatient, I can say, well, I'm a bit impatient. I know you need time to think, but I actually want to talk to you about this. When are you ready? So that is a way actually to try to control yourself. And if you have a crisis in your team, remember, it's an opportunity to grow. So, and if you're good at actually handling the crisis in a good manner, you will get stronger out of that. We have seen from our research that teams that do not have conflicts, that do not discuss the conflicts, somehow they are a bit stuck in the way they evolve together. We have tried to put startups into couples therapy, and sometimes it actually helps a bit, and sometimes it doesn't. Actually, the good startups, they continue to discuss. They don't stop to discuss, and they discuss and disagree on the small things and not on the very big things. Yeah. And of course, there's also legal issues you can look into if you want to ensure your startup has a good fundament for a team. So being aware of how you split the equity, that is very important. And especially that, and also with the effort. If you don't agree on how much effort I put into it and how much equity I own, that could be actually the cause or the root of that you can't continue together. And again, as I said before, the decision-making power, write it down so you know it's there. And it seems like a bit like you are actually signing the divorce papers when you're signing out a contract like this while you're getting married. That is sometimes very difficult. But do it because it's so much easier on a sunny day than on a rainy day. Yeah, and then go date. You're here today, and I know there are startups here coming up on the stage later on. Go out and date, but also in the start when you're collaborating, don't sign a contract instantly. Don't talk a lot about how you work. Start to work together. Test it out, maybe for some months, before you actually talk about the contracts. And of course, a good way is also to have student workers that are working with you and maybe progress in their role and become co-founders. So I can strongly encourage that. But then we also need diversity in our teams, and sometimes it's so much easier to find someone who looks a bit like you, especially if you are in a university environment and there's a lot just like you. Because we feel more comfortable when we are recruiting people that understand us instantly. And we're also a bit afraid of what we don't know. And maybe if you're not suited up and you like to go in the lab, you don't like suits and so on. I'll actually encourage you to go for what is not unlike you, and then talk about art and culture and music and see if you actually agree on values. That is a good way to start to connect. And we never know what's under the suit when we meet people. So we need to meet them more than once. We need to meet them in different occasions. We need to work together. So we may think that what we meet the first time is something that we can put in a box. But all the best experiences I've had with people in my life is with people that I got a bit annoyed with the first time I met them because I couldn't discover what was there. Not saying that you have to disagree with everyone you meet at once, but there are so many good and pleasant surprises. And if you think, how come am I acting like this? It's actually because our brain is wired actually just to say, well, can it eat me? Or can I eat it? Or is it going to kill me? Or something else? So we can't actually beat nature. That is how we are wired. And that is because we have to reduce complexity when we meet. Sometimes we test people and we put them into 4 boxes. And that is also a way to reduce complexity, to be aware of how we can interact together. But if you are recruiting and if you are testing people, just be aware of that the tests do not reflect everything. There's a lot other going on with people. Of course, what is our background? How are we grown up? Have we got good manners from our parents and maybe appear to be more well-behaved than we actually are by nature? How about our brain? Do we have a lot of bandwidth or not? Or are we robust? Do we know who we are and what we would like to do with our lives? Or are we scared of something? You can't test people for that. So in innovation, we actually talk always about 4 pillars we need to have in a team. So of course, we want to do the invention, we want to have the application, we want to create a product or service. And sometimes we do not get out of the lab because we really want to make it better and better and better and better. And sometimes we forget to go to the market. And that is where the different kind of people actually help each other. So we need people with market insight that can help us to go to the market, to talk to the customers, and maybe turn the application upside down because the market needs something else than we imagined. And then, of course, we also need funding. We need the resources to continue. We can't bootstrap forever. And we also need people to organize this, to recruit when we need more people in our organization. And I was a bit inspired by what Berkeley University made, these archetypes, and actually put someone more into it. So usually we talk about the hacker and the hipster and the hustler, but we also need the hippie. So otherwise we can't build a decent organization. So again, like the last slide, where I was talking about the innovation, the application, that is the hacker, of course. And the hipster is sure of that actually there is a need out there. People want to use what you are creating. And the hustler hopefully gets the money for you. And the hippie ensures that we are aligned on the values and we recruit the best people. And also take care of daily business, so usually operations. So another way to build a team is, of course, also to look for board members. They could also be active working in your startup. I just want to let you reflect a bit on this. And what do they actually have in common? There's too many board members and too few startups. So when you meet people here today, they're all potential board members if they're not actually working in their own startup. There's a lot of capacity here today, so go out and scout. A lot of people are dreaming about being a board member. I myself is also working as a board member, and I love it because I can use what I do the best, and help people with something that is very easy for me and maybe difficult for them. But we are a lot that actually aspire to work in boards. So just go out and hunt board members, because you'll be amazed about how many people who actually want to help you. Yeah. And then there's, of course, also the investors. Yeah, and maybe sometimes you feel that, they will eat all my equity up, so I won't get too close to them, and maybe I'll bootstrap from now on and until eternity. But actually, they can also give you the same as good board members. So both the board of directors and the investors can actually help you to maintain the strategic oversight and ensure that you have capacity, the support and the mentorship, also on a rainy day, that you can actually call your board member and say, well, now shit hit the fan again. The lab is exploding. What am I going to do? A good board member have maybe tried this before. Or if you go to customer meetings with very tough customers, take the board member with you to the customer meetings. Some of them would really love to do that. And then they also have networking opportunities, of course. Then said, if you have the opportunity actually to go and dig for good board members and investors, you need to be sure of that these 4 C's are actually there when you meet each other. Do you actually like each other? And do they complement you, not giving you exactly the same you have already? And do they want to collaborate, and how? And do they understand your culture? I see a lot of startups working with boards that where boards do not behave. And I'm just, sometimes I tell the startups founders, fire them. Because they're not supporting you, they're dragging you down, they are just like old-fashioned parents shouting too much, asking for too much paper. Maybe you should look for new board members. Do that if you have a board that is acting like that. And then be aware of that it needs, they also need to be taken care of. They need to be onboarded just like regular team members. To all of you, board members, investors, and startup people, when you are working for a startup, be aware of why are you doing this, and be explicit about how come you are at the table. And be super explicit on what do you bring to the table. If you have investors or board members that can't say that to you, go away. And usually they will tell you, if they are not good, oh, we can do everything in the world. I'm a generalist. I've been a general manager. I can do everything in the world. But actually, good board members, they're very specific on what they are good at. So, and if they can't pitch that to you in your startup or your scale-up, go away or ask more questions to help them. And of course, it's also good that they actually know what they master as black belters, what they can do with their eyes shut and love to do. And that is what I do when I help startup. I help recruit. I love it, and have recruited a lot in my life. So, and usually startups, they don't know what to do that. And when you as a board member help them recruit, they also learn how to do it in action. So that is really wonderful. And it's also okay that you actually ask people, if you're a founder, if you're an investor, if you're a board member, what do you think I'm the master of the universe of? What do you love me for doing? Because then you have a clear indication on what your superpower is. That's said both to the teams and the board members and the investors. Because then you can actually map out the gap between what do we have of competences in the team. So that was a more modern, organic way to look at it. You can also look at it in a more boring way. So these are the competences that actually all boards seek when they support startups and scale-ups, and also C25 companies. These competences are in very high demand, and all boards struggle if they don't have this. So this is what you as a board member could actually pitch, that you know a lot about supply chain and legal issues according to supply chain. So that is a clear board profile, for instance. But we still need the most important thing, and that is the superpower. Usually we call them the soft skills, I really hate that. That is the hard part. It's the generic tools where you actually, as a leader, are good at facilitating, are good at supporting founders, not only sitting eating open sandwiches at a board meeting, but actually also before and after, trying to reduce the reporting and just have enough so that you can help them. It's also keeping track on progress and remembering, hey, you actually decided to do this and now you're here. Are you lost? And sometimes founders are. So, and of course, help the founders with opening your network and be generous about that. So, just a little checklist on what is important when you choose a team, and have in mind that a team could be both your core team, your founders, the investors, and the board members. You have to align on the vision and the goal. You have to have complementary skills. You don't need three same skills. You need complementary skills. And then please engage a board, because we know from research that startups that has a board from the start, they perform better, they success better. So, and that is because the board members, if they are well functioning, they're actually working together with the startup. And be clear of what is the roles, also the board's roles. How much can they do? Can they fire the CEO, or what can they actually do? And be clear of the communication you have. I know when I help startups or scale-ups or SMEs that once new boards is typically because of bad communication, bad culture enforcement from the board side. So just have 1 minute to reflect with one behind you or next to you. What do you love and what do you have to offer as a board member or as a startup founder? Just talk to people next to you. Now you just connected, and I really hate to crash the party. So, and that is my role here today. Please continue the good dialogue after this session, because and talk to everyone you meet today about that, because that's a good opener instead of what do you do. And usually I could see all your faces. There was a lot of smiles, and I can also see that some actually don't want to stop the good conversations, and that is nice. So ask people what they love to do and what they would love to help other people with. That's a good conversation starter. So thank you for actually doing this together with me today. And I don't know if we have time for a question or...
Have time for one question? If there are any questions.
And while we are thinking about if we have a question, I can tell you that you are more than free to reach out to me if you have any questions regarding setting up a team or maybe having a good board that can support you as team members, because we do help you with that. Thank you for being awake. And is there a question?
I have one question.
Yeah.
Can I ask?
Okay, Camilla.
Are there any situations where it makes more sense to just be on your own, where you shouldn't get a co-founder?
That is a wrong question to ask me, because I'm an extroverted and I love to talk to people. So every time I don't know what I'm doing, I talk to people. So I would say no. But maybe before you actually set up a team, you can have a mentor, you can have sparring partners, and you can maybe even also start to onboard potential board members. So actually, this morning I talked to a beautiful woman about her startup, and you were a bit embarrassed to pitch it to me, and I was just like, I want to help you because I know people that can do that. And you can also do your fuck-up test pitch with me first. And I found another one that could help you again with both knowledge, and you could pitch again without it's dangerous. So having people around you that you may see to be potential team members, board members, and work with them from the start, yes, of course, because then you actually also get feedback on your idea. is that idea so good as I think it is? When you are very virgin in your startup, everything is just like a bit, oh, can I tell this to anyone? Will they laugh at me? Can I do it? We never know. A lot of startups fail, so it's more like people expect you to fuck up. So don't worry about that. So if you succeed, then it's better. So yes, do engage people.
Thank you, Anne.